So my name is Bertrand Coriou from Trifacta. I will be the moderator today. Quick housekeeping before we get in the webinar. So the webinar will be approximately 45 minutes. We'll take all the questions at the end of the webinar. So you've got a Q&A option in WebEx, so you can enter your questions and I will monitor them and direct them to the right speaker at the end of the webinar. I also want to thank our partners Tableau and Amazon who have been contributing to make this webinar possible. Trifacta and Tableau are members of the Amazon Web Services Partner Network. Tableau holds the big data and mobile competency, while Trifacta holds the machine learning Amazon competency. So joining today, David, you can move to the next slide. Joining today, we have Matt Estridge from Kuecker Logistics. Is a supply chain engineering project manager, operations and material background, is a supply chain analyst. We'll have also Kayla Compton. She's a supply chain engineer, engineering standards and operational analytics. And we have from Trifacta, David McNamara, who is our customer success manager at Trifacta. So all these speakers are bringing together years of real-life experience in implementing software solutions and supply chain solution or data wrangling solution. So we're really lucky to have them today with us. So I will now hand it over to David that will walk us through the agenda. So David, it's all yours.
Yeah, so just a quick overview of today's webinar. We'll be covering application data onboarding and what exactly that is. Onboarding challenges specific to supply chain, Kuecker Logistics data-driven approach to supply chain analytics. Then we'll go through a quick walkthrough of Trifacta's data onboarding solution, and this will be capped off with a demo of Trifacta from Matt. So what is application data onboarding? So onboarding is the action or process of effectively integrating a new employee, a partner, or a customer into an organization. In the context of data onboarding is the iterative process of combining disparate and unfamiliar data from internal and external systems into a consistent state to fuel a data-driven solution. Data onboarding comes in many different contexts, but oftentimes this involves taking internal data, third-party data, or client data, restructuring that into a standardized format, and then combining all of the disparate sources into a master report that can be used in downstream analytics processes. Now I will pass this off to Matt.
Matt, you may be on mute. Yeah, okay, we can hear you.
Yeah, so if you can go to the next slide, it'd be great. So talk about some of the supply chain challenges that are going on currently in the market, just understanding some of the things that companies have to deal with. Rising labor costs, reduced labor availability, you know, those are two key tenets of what's going on right now, and that leads into a lot of the projects that we work on is, you know, proposing automation for different things, and those require heavy analytical work to understanding what those channels are and defining those processes. Consumer demand for expedited delivery, a lot of people call it the Amazon effect, is people want things within 1 to 2 days when it's ordered. And overall that leads into the growth of e-commerce, new availability of data. People are, you know, as data becomes available, you have to be able to have the right structure in place to be able to take a look at that data and use it to drive a lot of your solutions. So, and then there's also this need for an agile and flexible supply chain to meet some of the, you know, rising labor costs, growth in e-commerce, those type of things, and, you know, ultimately developing an omni-channel to where, you know, you can operate in a few different lanes. So, and then the last thing on here is, you know, trying to understand the patterns of customer demand. You know, there's a lot of peaks and valleys through when things are being ordered, and it's understanding that, and a lot of that comes from the data, is understanding, you know, where you have to set up your different channels. So those are some of the supply chain trends and challenges that we're seeing right now, and you know, that's something we're looking at. So we can go to the next slide. So talk a little bit about Kuecker Logistics. As a company, we do a lot of systems engineering, a lot of operations assessments, supply chain consulting. We also have pre-engineered products that we furnish as far as pricing and specs on different equipment. Anything that you could possibly get in a warehouse, we have our hands on at some point. So we do a lot of design installs, so it's from end to end on that as far as building warehouses and understanding supply chains as a whole. You can go to the next one, David. So these are a few of our customers. This is a small subset of the customers that we've worked with. So a lot of these are larger customers, such as CVS and Herbalife, Advocare, XPO Logistics, so 3PL. We do a lot with smaller customers as well. It's just understanding their business and being able to drive solutions for them. So we can take a look at a very small customer, and we can go up to the largest customers. So we're kind of all over the place with that as well. So Ben, you can go to the next slide, David. So as far as understanding kind of our data-driven approach to supply chain, usually when we meet with the client and we understand exactly where they're trying to go, what kind of solutions they're proposing, or what kind of problems, bottlenecks they're having, we usually send out a data request, and that through that process we try to define what those data needs are. What do we need to take a look at? Is inbound profiles, outbound profiles, inventory profiles, those types of things. We receive that data from the customer. Usually it's not as simple as just dictating which columns and headings that you would like in all of your data sets. It's a lot more convoluted than that, and that's something that we use Trifacta to do, and it allows us to bring in these different files that we get, whether they're text files, CSV files, Excel files. Some things are through Access that we export to CSV or text files, and Trifacta allows us to pull that all together, and that's the part where we clean the data with the differing schema and everything else. Through that, we talk through the initial profiles, and talking to those initial profiles is within our engineering group, and we get to understand the data, what's kind of going on, some things that we might be able to remove from some of the data that might be irrelevant or redundant. And then we set our profiles, and that's where we're doing some of our modeling and possibly doing a lot of our data visualization, so we can share it with the other members of the group to try to get an understanding of where we should drive some of our solutions. And then we upload our profile, put it out for everybody to be able to use and take a look at. And through that process, we view profiles a little bit more, talk through it with the entire Kuecker Logistics Group as a whole, with the different core groups, such as applications engineering, systems engineering, and IT, and everything else. So, and we just use those profiles to drive discussion. And as things change and those discussions, get pointed in different directions, we use a lot of our visualization through Tableau to make, a lot of the changes that we'd like to see and recreate our profiles as needed, or we can go all the way back to the process through Trifacta and go all the way around again if we need to. That's it. So Kayla's going to take over this next piece, talking about the data onboarding challenges.
Okay. Well, when you're doing data onboarding in a supply chain environment, there are some challenges you're going to run into. We deal a lot with a lot of different file types. Our customers will send files in different structures that we need to merge and kind of look at, and that's one of our big challenges. The next is going to be they're going to send things, and all customers send data in different ways. It all looks different. You have to, go through and really see what the quality of your data is before you can use it. And then next is a lot of our customers send really large data, and we need to be able to upload that as quickly as possible to get this turnaround. Like Matt said, people want things quickly. And then learning statistical programming takes a long time. And, you know, when you onboard someone, they can't just come in right away and jump on into programming and be able to do, you know, data onboarding quickly, and that's something we really run into. And then our biggest is kind of, like I said, a quick turnaround. People want things really quickly, and that's a big challenge for us sometimes.
So now I'm going to talk a little bit about where Trifacta fits into this whole process. So the Kaggle founder and CEO, Andy Goldblum, was quoted as saying, "There's a joke that 80% of data science is cleaning the data and 20% is complaining about cleaning the data." Insights garnered from data can only be as good as the data that feeds the models. So if you're feeding the models with bad data, likely you'll get bad insights that can often cause more harm than good. So this is what makes data wrangling such a key component of data onboarding workflows, and Trifacta provides a tool that allows our customers to be agile while also enabling repeatability in their workflows and trust in their data. The typical process goes as follows. Trifacta's interface provides robust data profiling features, which allows customers like Kuecker to assess the value or categorical distributions of their data, check missing and mismatched values, and discover exactly what is in their data. So as Kayla alluded to, being able to discover the quality of your data right up front is extremely important in many data onboarding contexts. Then Kuecker can move on to restructuring their data sets into standardized formats, and from there clean up any anomalies or any abnormalities that are present in their data. And then next, Trifacta allows Kuecker to join or union their data sets together. So if they have data coming from disparate sources that they need to unify into one sort of standard format, Trifacta allows them to do that in an agile manner. And then once this first iteration of wrangling is complete, they can validate their data, check to make sure the output is as desired, and once they are confident in the output of their data, they can move on to publishing this to their downstream platforms. And now to talk a little bit about the architecture of Kuecker's Trifacta environment, and specifically, they're using the Trifacta Edge product, which is available on the AWS Marketplace. As Bertrand alluded to in the beginning of the webinar, Trifacta is a member of the Amazon Web Services Partner Network, holds the machine learning Amazon competency. So this Edge AWS environment sits atop an Amazon EC2 instance where data can be read from local files, on-prem databases, applications, and so on to S3, wrangled through Trifacta, and then published back through S3. Because this Edge product is a managed solution, Kuecker doesn't need to hire a dedicated IT team to manage the solution, so they don't need to onboard an entirely new team to manage any new data products that they have. So with that, I will let Matt go ahead and give a quick demo of Trifacta and how it's used in Kuecker's day-to-day work. Bertrand, would you like to pass the president? Yep.
Absolutely. So can everybody see my screen?
Yep, looks good.
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, so what we have right here, and we're going to be using as an example of part of our data onboarding process and getting different types of files is these three separate files. This isn't just a generic 3 files that we've used to just kind of explain the process. And this is an example of a file that we brought in from Excel, talking about using disparate file types. You know, this is an Excel file, this was a text file, and this was another Excel file. So as we go through this, just keep that in mind as looking at different files that you're bringing in, you can kind of use them in the same structures using a text file, CSV file, as Excel file. So first thing we want to do is go ahead and take a look at, and I see that this file, just from the onset, I can take a look at it and see that, you know, this is some of my order data right here, or sample order data, and I see that it doesn't have column headings. So I know the customer came in and was able to give me column headings, but it was in another file, it was in an Excel file that was separate from the text file that was given. So I see that on here, so first step I'm going to do is go ahead and do a union. I'm going to find out, that file that I wanted to use, which is the order fulfillment. And because they're not going to have matching column headings, of course, because they don't exist in the order data, I'm just going to do it by position. So this is something, that Trifacta saves us a lot of time in doing that would traditionally be done in using something like R or Python statistical packages or in SQL. So we'll be doing the union on these files. And to keep in mind also, these files are fairly large. The order file that I just combined the column heading file with is about 300 megs, so it's fairly large. And so what we're going to want to do here is take a look at all of our order data. So Trifacta provides a histogram at the top of every column heading, kind of showing what your values are for each one of your rows. So something I noticed right off the bat right here is this is white space. So it's being indicated by Trifacta that this is in our data, and this is something we want to remove, because if anybody's been doing joins or you move anything to any type of visualization like Tableau or you doing some of your modeling in R, it's something that might not be picked up because of the white space or because of some type of symbol. So what we're going to do for that, I'm going to go to formatting, and this is something we see a lot. So we're going to trim all of our leading white space. So we did that. Looking through it, we were able to trim that. And another example of something that we have within this data set is irrelevant values. So we see these are nulls. And so I could keep these as nulls, or you can scroll over them using the brush stroke, and we could see that we want to replace. So it gives us the option through the algorithms that starts picking up that, okay, we want to replace this and put something else in. So I know just from prior knowledge that I want to put in, instead of null values, not available. Use that to change, it'll change the value in there, and then now when you go to visualization or you start doing some of your modeling, you can say, okay, this is going to be my not available, so I can go ahead and cut that step out of the visualization process as far as identifying that alias. So next thing I'm going to do is take a step back and look at what's been done. So these two files were unioned together, allowing us to grab those one large file and link it up with the other column headings that were given in an Excel file. And what I want to do now is do a lookup, because I want to pull in this stock description number into my order file. So what I'll do is I'll go back into the order fulfillment data that I've just joined or unioned with the column headings. And I want to find the physical codes, which corresponds to the other document. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here, click lookup, find the file, which was the stock codes. I know that I want to use stock code as the value to bring it over. And so now I've been able to bring this over with the stock code description values. As simple as that. So now if we take a step back, you see that all three of these are now connected, and now I have a whole data set. You can take the job, and I can go in and decide whether I want to run that on Trifacta server, which may be a little bit faster, and then you also have the option to run it within Hadoop. You can also change any of your naming, any type of formats that you would like, whether you would like the files appended or replaced every single time you run them. And then whenever they are ran, they will go into Amazon Web Services for us into our S3 bucket. And from there, if it's a file that's larger than, I want to say it's 500 or 600 megs, then we'll need to download it using some type of FTP to pull it down from the S3 bucket. And that's all I had as far as the data onboarding. David or Bertrand, take it back over.
Cool. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for the quick demo, Matt. It shows pretty well the work you're doing with these data sets.
Cool. So just a quick recap on the benefits that Trifacta provides in conjunction with AWS. So Trifacta provides a flexible solution on top of AWS, allowing customers like Kuecker to be more agile when onboarding new customers' data. Users can assess the quality of their data up front, accelerating the understanding of new data sets and new onboarding projects. Trifacta's predictive interaction, as Matt showed in the demo, learns from users' interactions to provide suggestions on how best to proceed with their data. Real-time previews of each step allows for visual quality assurance, even for the most advanced transformations. Lastly, the ability to schedule jobs within Trifacta's interface enables repeatable automated outputs. So Matt wasn't able to get to the scheduler, but if he were to run those projects on a weekly or monthly basis, Trifacta allows him to do that in an automated manner. So with that, we're going to go ahead and open this up to Q&A. I believe Bertrand will be handling the questions.
Yeah, we have the first question here. And so, people, you can use the Q&A panel and enter your questions, or also the chat if you want. So we've got a first question that is, how do you deal with data security? So I don't have more than this as the question. So how do you deal with data security? Maybe a question for you, David?
Yeah, so Trifacta integrates with whatever platform the environment sits atop of, whatever their security protocols are. So on top of Hadoop, we'll integrate with Kerberos. And so it's sort of whatever vendor the data storage platform is on, we integrate with their data security platform. So it's as secure as whatever platform your data is coming from.
Yeah, so we leverage the security of the underlying data platform.
Exactly, yep.
To connect to the data or process the data.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There was another question that was about the quick turnaround. What does it mean, and volume of data? So maybe it's a question from Matt and Kayla, is like when you're talking quick turnaround, what is the expectation of the customer to get some results? And when you were mentioning volume of data, how big is this?
Yeah, when we're talking about different, I guess, file types and looking at those type of things, getting in that usually as you get data from a customer, it comes in one, fail swoop with the majority of your data, and there's different iterations of the data that you get over a period of time. So as far as the turnaround, what we mean by that is, you want to get your data as quickly as possible, and then you also want to be able to give it to the core groups that need it. So that would be, the other engineering groups, systems engineering, applications engineering, so they can start looking at the overall designs that we're trying to do. So being able to do that initial analysis is very important to understand, where we want to drive different results. So I hope that answers the question. But, yeah, that's part of the reason why we push a quick turnaround, and that's what we mean by that. But, as far as file sizes, I mean, we've seen files as large as 6 or 7 gigs. And then we have, and a lot of times we're having to join those files together and doing unions and doing a lot of work to put those files together to get the results that we need out of them. So Trifacta allows us to do that, and that's what we use it for. So,
and just to touch on that file size question as well, Trifacta scales with your Amazon AWS cluster. So if data volumes are extremely large, you can scale out your EC2 cluster, use more compute resources as you run the job. Trifacta will use all of the nodes within a cluster to scale its execution processes. So in the case of AWS, we're using elastic MapReduce for extremely large volumes of data. So there's no real limit to the size of data. The limit really lies in the size of the cluster and the number of compute resources that the platform you're on is using.
Yeah, we've got another question here. How do you handle unstructured data for onboarding?
Yeah, so I guess we can talk a little bit about, just to touch on what Matt presented in the demo. So within Trifacta, you're building recipes. These recipes are a list of logical steps that you apply to your data, and these logical steps can be reapplied to data sets as they come in. In the case of unstructured data sets, your recipe will just need to account for the fact that the first few steps are going to be basically manually structuring your data into something that's presentable in a table-like format. So oftentimes, if you have a text file or you're pulling data from a PDF that's not structured in a manner similar to a CSV or a JSON file, you'll need to do some initial structuring steps to get that in a format that you can combine with other structured data sets, if that's sort of the plan. So there's just some extra structuring steps that need to be done in the early stages of the recipe to make sure that you have something that's workable.
Is it done in Trifacta? Yeah.
Yeah, in Trifacta, yeah. So, we work with text files, which can be unstructured. So those structuring steps can be done within Trifacta.
Okay. Maybe another question to you again, David. How long does it take to implement Trifacta?
That is highly dependent upon the environment that you're implementing on top of. In cases like Kuecker's, where we're installing on top of AWS on an EC2 cluster, it takes very little time at all. We basically spin up the environment on top of one of our hosted clusters of EC2 and then provision user accounts for users that will be used within the company. So that turnaround can be, in just a day. For some of the more complicated installs on top of Hadoop environments, those can vary a little bit more. But as far as AWS goes, it's fairly instantaneous.
Okay. That's good. Yeah, maybe a question to you, Matt and Kayla, is before Trifacta, how were you doing the onboarding? You mentioned, yeah. What were the technology you were using, and what value did you get out of it now?
Yeah, before we invested into Trifacta, we did a lot of things within, Access. We relied a lot on Excel before, if the file size wasn't too large to be able to bring it into that, and we did R, statistical programming. So we used R, and particularly the tidyverse as far as a package within that to kind of wrangle some of our data and pull it together to be able to visualize it, put it into formats that we could use. So R, Access, things like that. Access still has a restraint as far as I think it's about 2 gigs on including the objects within an Access database. So, that's what we use. Access or Excel didn't work, we'd go with R and just use that, or sometimes we'd just use R if it was faster. So, we saw some results from that. We were able to get done what we needed to get done. But as Kayla touched on, as far as, as you grow and you bring people on and you're trying to learn different things, is, teaching people statistical programming, it's a unique skill set for a lot of people. So, it takes a little bit of time to learn. So Trifacta is something that you can step into and learn fairly quickly, especially, with folks like David and other customer success managers, ensuring that's happening. So
maybe another question that comes along this one. So what does it take to learn Trifacta? What was your learning curve?
There's a learning curve like there is with anything, but I'll say it is much shorter than it is for learning anything like R or Python. So, you go through Trifacta, and we went through the demo that we just showed. looking through some of the brush strokes and some of the algorithms that are being ran to find out some of the things that you want to pull out and replace with other possible values. So a lot of that brushstroke design helps with that learning curve. So as far as some of the more complicated things is, you know, where you want to do some of your splits and unique joins and things like that, Trifacta really helps with that. But I'd say you can be up and running with some of the Trifacta, some of the things that Trifacta offers within a few weeks, and you know, through there you start to get a real good handle on it within the first few months, and then you can start. I mean, your skill set will grow as you go along, but Trifacta is something that has a fairly quick onboarding time as far as just learning the material.
Thank you, Matt. I don't have any other question. Maybe is there any other question on the chat or the Q&A panel? Maybe a few more. I don't see other questions come in. So then that will be a wrap up now, I think. So thank you, Matt, Kayla, for the time. Thank you, David, for sharing your experience in data onboarding. We know that data onboarding, bringing data into application, analytic application, advanced analytic, machine modeling, we know that if the data is right, then the models and the reports are right. So we help a lot of companies in that purpose. So thank you again also to all the attendees. The webinar will be posted soon on our website, and you'll receive an email for the people that could not attend to listen to it. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.